Good afternoon, I'm Giovanni Dennis with the Midday News for today, Tuesday, November 24. A special welcome to you if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. 3 people were killed in separate incidents in the St. Catherine North Police Division last night. The incidents happened in Spanishtown. Head of the Police Corporate Communications Unit, Senior Superintendent Stephanie Lindsay, gave details.
There was an incident in Brunswick Avenue where a male was stabbed. We also are able to confirm that there were 2 separate shooting incidents in the Thompson Pen area where a male as well as a female were killed in separate incidents. The police are now trying to ascertain whether there is any connection between those 2 cases.
Residents reported hearing explosions and later found the body of the woman at Old Road in Thompson Pen. The body of the man was found this morning on the Spanishtown Old Bridge. Now, data from the JCF show the St. Catherine North Police Division has seen a 35% increase in murders so far this year compared to the same period in 2019. It's also the same division in which the chilling triple murder of an elderly woman and her 2 grandchildren took place on Sunday. And over in St. Mary, 1 man was shot and killed shortly before 5 o'clock this morning. It's understood that the deceased was one of 2 men who were stealing from a farmer in Baileysville, Port Maria. TVJ News understands that the farmer was patrolling his farm when he saw the 2 men. After raising an alarm, one of the men attacked him with a machete. Deputy Superintendent of Police Dalen Clark says the farmer shot his attacker while the other man escaped. The farmer then called the police.
Upon arrival of the police, the body of Ricardo Taylor, OC Snakeman, from a frontier address in Port Mara, was seen lying on the ground with what appeared to a gunshot wound.
4 deaths have been recorded from COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. The deceased are a 59-year-old man from Kingston and St. Andrew, an 89-year-old man from St. James, a 95-year-old man from Trelawney, and a 77-year-old woman from Westmoreland. 2 of the deaths were previously under investigation. The death toll is now 243. Meanwhile, there have been 79 new cases of COVID-19, increasing the case count to 10,422. Their ages range from 2 to 93 years. Meanwhile, it appears the Food and Drug Administration is getting closer to approving 2 COVID-19 vaccines. The agency has asked a number of its members of the Vaccine Advisory Committee to reserve December 17th and 18th for meetings. A source says those meetings are to discuss a vaccine developed by Moderna. Another meeting already on the books for December 10th will focus on Pfizer's application for emergency use for its vaccine. Moderna and Pfizer both claim that their vaccine candidates are 95% effective. Moderna is still waiting for some data related to study participants who contracted COVID-19, but the company says it could apply for emergency authorization as early as next week. The FDA consults with its vaccines and related biological products advisory committee before allowing any vaccine to go to market. The wearing of masks has been a major concern since the start of the pandemic, and while medical experts have been stressing the significance of wearing one, getting persons to do so correctly remains a challenge. It's the reason President of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, Patsy Edwards Henry, is encouraging regular rotation of masks.
A mask is effective up to 4 hours maximum. So it is recommended that if you have to wear a mask, and when we do wear the mask, we try not to keep it on longer than 4 hours.
A blocked drain and a damaged drain cover are posing dangerous health threat to vendors and commuters outside the Spanishtown bus park in St. Catherine. The vendors are appealing to the relevant authorities to urgently fix the problem. O'Shane Masters has their story.
From a running stream to pools of water settling on the road just outside the Spanishtown bus park in St. Catherine. That's the situation commuters and vendors have to deal with whenever it rains. With the COVID-19 pandemic still with us and the threat of dengue, the vendors are concerned.
The water that has been running on the road since the heavy rains which it is coming onto the bus park, and it is not going to the drain system that for the government, and it is flooding out the bus park, and it's destroying the roads that we just repaired the other day, and it's causing a nuisance. This is also going to create further dengue and other related diseases because the water is not going where it is to go, and it's causing a severe problem.
They say the source of a problem is a blocked drain.
Every day, the water come up more. And in my own suggestion, I said so many young men are in Spanishtown that are not working. They could pay them to clean the drain. Because when the drain clean and the water come down, it will go away. If we have a garbage bin on the way, away from this, somebody must can know say, then cleanliness is godliness. So therefore, from the place clean, they must ever keep it clean, that the whole city will be clean.
Now, a damaged drain cover is another problem in the town that they have to face. One vendor pointed to the dangers it poses, especially to the visually impaired and the elderly.
The amount of blind people when me have to move, we on this little sitting people a man dropping and nearly broken foot, we have to take stickers something put in there. It needs to be fixed immediately. As rain fall, the whole area stuff flood out. Nobody can cross here. So the drain need to fix and clean out and fix up and things. You see it? Remember, say all people are walk, picnic and walk on the road. Some people are walk, they never look neither. So you don't know, you need to take care of.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have more news when we return. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. One local academic says the level of erosion on the nation's roadways will increase as seasonal weather systems become progressively worse. With that warning is an appeal for another study to determine the benefits of asphalt roads versus concrete roads. More in this report.
Across the country, road patching work is on in earnest, but just like the fresh asphalt that's being used to fill out the potholes, fresh questions are being asked about the sustainability of the asphalt road construction method. The most recent damage done to local roads came after the country was lashed by successive weather systems that flooded parts of the country. Professor of Geology at the University of the West Indies, Simon Mitchell, is concerned for the future of Jamaican roads. He says the speed at which roads are eaten away by erosion is increasing, in particular Kingston, due to its geographical makeup.
The rivers come down, so the Hope River is obviously the obvious one that comes down, and you've got this extensive plain, which is really a delta, which actually extends down to the shore. Now, one of the biggest problems with that is that the runoff is very, very slow. And slow runoff is obviously not one of the useful things that we actually see. But anytime you get runoff, anytime you get water running off, and particularly with these heavy showers, you're going to get erosion.
Some locals have suggested that their tax dollars be spent on concrete roads instead. Now, one local expert on concrete structures, Andre Nelson, is an engineer and the industrial and builders manager at Carib Cement.
The biggest benefit from using a concrete solution is when we look at the life cycle cost benefit. Now, when you do a solution in concrete, it takes generally many more years before you need to come back and do any repairs or rehab. In asphalt, typically what we see, based on the practices we have in the country, is that quickly after there's a repair done on that road.
He pointed to the Fern Gully in St. Anne and a section of the Bogwalk Gorge in St. Catherine as testimony of the durability of concrete roadways.
Typically at any significant rainfall event, the Bogwalk Gorge would have been scoured out and impossible to the motorists, especially in the areas where there is scour from overflow of the river onto the roadway. Now, since that has been done, I can say we have had Hurricane Catherine, we have had a number of different storm events, right, which didn't leave that road impassable. Only during the storm event when water came over and when it subsided, the road was still usable.
The engineer said that the authorities should do a life cycle analysis and benefit on asphalt versus concrete roads to again determine which investment is better in the long term. But even then, he doesn't believe Jamaicans will stop getting asphalt roads anytime soon. So he suggested more mixed approaches in making roads.
There can be that hybrid where you have the concrete and asphalt, or other alternatives, such as, for example, soil cement, where, you know, if you have a parochial road, a farm road, you can actually just mix the existing soil with cement and roll, you know, and grade and roll, and that's a solution that will last some time.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
News on the political scene now. Attorney and former PNP member Clyde Williams says things will get rockier in the People's National Party before they get better. The party has been in turmoil since last year's leadership contest between then-President Dr. Peter Phillips and Peter Bunting. Details in this report.
Since the PNP's loss in the September 3 general election, Dr. Peter Phillips has stepped aside, and Mark Golding and Lisa Hanna went head-to-head for the seat, with Mr. Golding prevailing. Now, tension is again building as persons linked to the Hanna and Golding camps seek to fill the key positions of General Secretary and Chairman. Mr. Williams is predicting it could take 2 years for the party to settle down.
All of this is going to take a little time, so you need to sit down, do a proper SWOT or SWOT-like analysis, and then have some smart outcomes and objectives set over a horizon of about 5 years. Understanding the first 2 years is a lot more internal because it's going to be a lot more rocky before it gets better. I draw the parallel with the JLP again. So the JLP is smooth sailing now. When Andrew came to office, it wasn't no cheese walk for Andrew. There was a lot of struggling there.
He's also calling out PNP President Mark Golding for publicizing his picks for Chairman and General Secretary of the party. Mr. Golding has said he would prefer to have Dr. Dayton Campbell in the post of General Secretary and Dr. Angela Brown-Burke as Chairman. Mr. Williams says while previous party leaders have had preferences, they are not usually announced.
That might have been an unfortunate show of his hands. I mean, remember again, all the previous leaders would have come up right through the ranks of the party, every last one of them. So by the time they get to that place, they have a team already that took them to that place. It was unfortunate to have showed his hand. That's a little bit of political neophyte behavior, because when you show your hand, then the daggers are drawn.
Meanwhile, former PNP Member of Parliament Lord B. Smith says Mr. Golding's comments on the upcoming contests have exacerbated the tension within the PNP.
The ones who are referred to as the ones is now see where they will not have any meaningful seat at the table of power. And they argue, therefore, that Mark should be magnanimous in victory and perhaps allow someone from their side to hold one of the respective positions. That is topical, because politics doesn't go like that. And anybody with any common sense would know that a leader would want to have around him or her those persons whom he has full confidence in.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
The St. Anne's Bay Police are lauding a private sector entity for a move that may help in crime fighting. The local company has joined the government's tablet initiative, donating the equipment to students across the island. Police say the move is also preventing idle students from getting into trouble.
The devil finds work for idlers. That's the experience of the St. Anne's Bay Police, as students have been out of physical school for months. Division Head Superintendent Carlos Russell says his teams have been encountering youngsters in several communities on the streets, idling and getting into mischief at all hours of the day.
And when they do the investigation, sometimes some of these persons, they are not in possession of a device to be accessing school. So that is why contributions like these from different foundations and companies are important to ensure that all of our kids have the same opportunities to access the school system.
So finally, I know that these are for students, but do you think that the police
It's why he's praising a recent move by local producers, San Myrna Paper Products, who are donating tablets to students across the island. The latest stop, the Community Youth Club in St. Anne's Bay.
What we are trying to do is help our young ones who have difficulty getting a tablet and hardship getting a tablet. We are trying to touch as many lives that we can.
Managing Director Robert White says they joined the initiative as their way of helping, noting that they work with the Education Ministry to ensure distribution is not duplicated.
And the JCF in the area where we go, we try to work with them, and in the community safety section of the JCF to ensure that we do the distribution correctly and let it reach the person who is in need of it more. And we do not double up and give to someone twice.
Both the police and the company warn that unsupervised use of the tool can cause trouble.
We just want to also encourage the parents to monitor these children and these devices. We know that they will be on the internet, and the internet offers a lot, not only education. So we have to ensure that what they're accessing is educational products and not anything else.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
In news overseas, US President Donald Trump is still adamant that he won't concede the 2020 election. But he's come close. A top government agency told President-elect Joe Biden that the administration is ready to start the official transition process. More from the CNN.
A new era is about to begin in Washington, D.C.
Joe Biden is the president-elect. He will be the president of the United States.
On Monday afternoon, Biden received a letter, also obtained by CNN, from the General Services Administration formally confirming his victory, a process known as ascertainment.
I think the headline Biden team is looking for is make government work again.
The GSA's letter came after Michigan formally certified its election results. President Donald Trump tweeting afterward that he supported starting transition protocols, but hours later he tweeted that he will never concede to fake ballots.
The election was stolen is not the identity, the principal philosophy, the underlying identity of the Republican Party. No, I mean, it can't be.
Biden, who was declared winner of the 2020 election more than 2 weeks ago, has already named several cabinet nominees.
These are no-nonsense people who are not out with their own political agendas.
The Biden team will now have access to more office space and federal resources to help ease the transition.
At the end of the day, there's 100 federal agencies, close to 4 million federal employees, and a lot of policy and determination to understand and to take hold of before January 20th. And we want the presidential team to be prepared on day one. We don't want them playing catch up. And unfortunately, they've lost about 20 days at this point.
In sports, two-time Jamaica Open amateur champion Justin Burrows continues his dominance in the local championship after recovering from a first-round deficit of 3 strokes to win the 25th staging of the Alliance Buccaneer Memorial Classic. This happened at the Caymanas course.
20-year-old Justin Burrows began the second round trailing 16-year-old Rocco Lopez by 3 strokes. Burrows, who has been the country's #1 amateur golfer over the past 3 years, signaled his intention with 4 birdies in 5 holes to cut Lopez's lead to just a stroke, after the 2018 Caribbean Under-15 champion had 2 birdies. Defending champion William Nibbs, who began the day 2 strokes behind the leader, was in trouble with 2 bogeys and a birdie. Burrows had 2 more birdies on the 7th and 9th holes to finish the front 9 with 5 under par 31, while Lopez had 3 consecutive bogeys to finish 2 over par 38 to now trail Burrows by 3 strokes. However, Burrows had a double bogey at the par 5, 12 holes after hitting his tee shot out of bounds, but he quickly birdied the next hole, and the 17th to finish 5 under par 67 for a total of 4 under par 140. This was Burrows' 3rd consecutive victory since the Jamaica Golf Association resumed competition after the COVID-19 outbreak.
I mean, coming into today, I knew I was coming in from behind. I knew I was 3 behind. I knew I had to get off to a good start to keep the pressure on the leader. And I was just able to start well, and I was able to kind of just hold it together on the back 9, and thankfully it kind of it paid off in the end. You know, today would just happen to be my day. So.
Nibs was dethroned by 5 strokes after carding 1 over par 73 for an overall 145.
I made a few mistakes that I could have avoided. Missed about 3-4 putts inside of 6 feet, which if you're playing well, you really need to make those if you really want to contend. But I hit 8 greens, which is not very many, and I shot 1 over, so lots of positives to take from it.
While Lopez failed to follow up on his first round of 2 under par 70 with a 5 over par 77 for a gross total of 147.
You know, I knew I had to play good today if I wanted to win, but I started good. I was 2 under through 6, finished the front 9, 2 over, and from there it just didn't go my way.
Renardo Brown for TVJ Sports.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.